guests Vinaya and Ritusmita.
Hello, good evening, everybody, and good morning, Dr. Sen. So, myself, Vinaya, and Ritusmita, my teammate, we have worked together on this capstone project for analysis of child rescue data. What we will do in the next 10 minutes is we will try to give a brief on the domain because the sector is probably new for many of you. So, I will just spend a couple of minutes to say what the social sector is about. And we will emphasize on what the problem statement is. We will walk through what is the solution methodology we followed and how we went about doing the data collection. We did some statistical visualizations. Then we built a couple of few models, and we'll also touch upon what we plan to do next. So just to give something on the sector, so we have a lot of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, also called grassroots organizations. They play a very critical role in the development of society. And they usually work in the underprivileged society, the marginalized section of the society. They work very closely with the government departments, which work with child and women development and disability and health, nutrition, education, poverty, hunger management, and many such sectors. So we have worked on this project, which is specifically working with NGOs who work in child rescue. So it's a very specialized sector. So these NGOs focus only on rescuing children. And when we say children, anybody less than 18 years of age is called a child. And many of these children leave home for various reasons. And we have seen statistics have been published that, in 2014, there were about 5,000 such children who were rescued at railway stations only. And that number has increased to about 16,000 in 2019. And it's only increasing further. So as per government census, it has also been published that about 11 million children are living on the streets in India. May not be all our runaway children. Some may be living with families, but still they are on the streets effectively. So in child labor, in abused state or whatever, there are many situations and they need to be rescued. So what exactly is the problem statement? So we are saying there are lots of children and steadily the numbers are increasing. The children are getting displaced from homes. They are prone to a lot of negative situations in the world. There is human trafficking, there's child labor, there's organ extortion. There is a lot of situations, and these are real situations on the streets. They are deprived of their fundamental rights, which is right to education, right to protection from violence, and food and health, and all these issues is what the children face. So what we are trying to do is we have been working with some of the NGOs trying to get some historical data. We are working on this data to understand if there is certain geographical locations which are more vulnerable, from where maybe many children or a larger number of children may be getting displaced. What are the priority? What are the top reasons why these children are running away from home? And we're also trying to be a little ambitious by seeing that if I give a certain set of attributes to this model, will it be able to predict that whether a certain child could become a potential runaway case? So that is what we are trying to achieve by developing this model. The solution methodology that we followed, we spent some considerable time trying to get the data from, of course, we have worked with NGOs who are only rescuing children in the railway stations. So we worked with about 10 railway stations across India, north, south, east, west, all four regions. We collected data from them ranging from June 2020 to December, mid-December 2020. We had to share some kind of an Excel with them to ensure that everybody, since all NGOs collect their own data in different formats, we had to ensure that they could give us data in a consolidated standard format. So we got about 636 observations across 10 stations. Since this was COVID hit time, most railway stations were not very, they didn't have a lot of cases coming up. But otherwise on a regular basis, it's about 30 children per month per station. That's the numbers that are running these days. So after we got the data, we kind of course, we had to mask the sensitive data. That was the first thing. And then we identified the independent and dependent variables. We codified the data because most of the data was categorical data. So we kind of codified it. Then we did a lot of statistical analysis. We did a lot of visualizations. Ritusmita had some good expertise with the Tableau visualization tool. So she was able to develop some lovely graphs for us. So with that, we were able to get some insights into what may be the multiple factors which could give insights into what made a child run away from the house. We then went ahead and developed a correlation matrix. Then we split the data into test and train, and we built prediction models. We have built about 3 different prediction models. So what we wanted to achieve was, of course, get the insights into which is the most vulnerable geographies, what are the factors that led to a child running away, and whether we could predict if a child could become a potential case. That is what we wanted to try and achieve. So this is the format, kind of the Excel format that we shared. So if you look up, this was June 1st to 10 December is the time frame that we asked all the railway stations to provide the data between. And these were the 10 different stations that were ready to give us the data. And this is the template that we kind of shared. The ones which are highlighted in blue. So effectively, there were about 26 columns. But we found that the data was so exhaustive, we didn't want to use the entire data set to run this model. So we have taken only the initial first columns from column A to column N. And we worked on these columns. Of course, we could continue adding the rest of the columns and see how more factors could come in. So when we asked people to share the data, we had already codified, or not codified, I would say we had given some standardized values for each of these columns. So if you see there is a column for gender, there's a column for region, there's a column for family situation. So you could see that we gave values for each of it so that they could choose some of just any of these values so that they don't come up with different values for everything. Then you can't do any analysis if there is no standardized value data. So out of the 26 fields, we chose only eight independent features. And these were the features that we chose to work on. So there was 8: gender, family situation, circumstance of rescue, displacement due to origin state, region, and if the child is going to school. So these were the 8 features that we chose, and we wanted to predict whether this child is a vulnerable case or not. These were some of the visualizations that we did in Tableau and Excel, which could give us very good insights into how the age was playing a role, how gender was playing a role, how maybe a state was playing a role. Like we can very well see here, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh seem to be the most vulnerable states in the country. We can also see a lot more boys tend to be displaced from home than girls. We can see that 10 to 14 years of age seems to be more vulnerable. So we could see a lot of such insights. We also saw that job-related reasons were why most children decided to move away from home. So we can see that about 100 plus children moved away from home looking for jobs. And attraction to city seemed to be another reason why they seem to be running away from home. Now, these are some insights we tried to get just by doing visualization. And then we went further and did a correlation matrix to emphasize that whatever we had kind of seen in visualizations, was it making sense? And we saw that most of them gave us a pretty similar thing, except if you can see here, age is showing a negative 25% correlation with vulnerability, which otherwise didn't seem to make sense because I thought age was playing a very important role, right? So what we did is we went ahead and used age in our model, but region we dropped because it didn't seem to make much impact, right? So we dropped this region feature, but we continued to use age, and we went ahead and built the model. I will let Ritusmita talk about the models.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Here we have prepared 3 models for our project. The first one is logistic regression model. You all know that logistic regression is a statistical method that is used for building machine learning models and all. For this model, we have divided data into train set and test set. Here, 75% of data for training set and 25% of data for testing. And here my first model is logistic regression used to independent variable and dependent variable. Here I have taken 6 independent variable and 1 dependent variable. Here the confusion matrix. In this confusion matrix, in the prediction done by the model in the test data, out of 33 not vulnerable cases is 10 was predicted correctly as not vulnerable, and out of 75 vulnerable cases, 69 was predicted correctly as vulnerable cases, and the red one is the wrong prediction, and the accuracy is 73%. The next one is Naive based model. The Naive-based model is my second model. It is a probability-based algorithm. It's extremely test compared to others, and it doesn't require a large training data set. It works best with small training data to also small numbers of features. assumes there is no dependence among the features, and here's the accuracy interpretation. In this prediction, out of 33 not vulnerable cases, the 27 was predicted correctly as not vulnerable, and out of 75 vulnerable cases, only 52 was predicted correctly, and the accuracy is same as logistic regression at the 73%. And the next one is our random forest generator model. Um, this is my final model. It's create a set of decision tree form randomly selected of training set. It's used to averaging to improve the predictive accuracy, and the prediction is out of 33 not vulnerable cases, and the 25 was predicted correctly as not vulnerable, and the out of 75 vulnerable cases, only 72 was predicted correctly as vulnerable, and this model is testing accuracy is 89%. So after executing 3 different classification models, the random forest model has given the best accuracy among the 3 classification models. So, however, the model can further be optimized, and better accuracy can be achieved by the increasing the data set quantity, adding or dropping some features after a closer look at the correlations, and fixing missing values and outliers, and altering the model parameters. And next, Vinaya ma'am, please.
Okay, so yeah, so that's how we had kind of built up models. So what we are saying as next step is we would like prevention is better than cure, as they say. So what we would think is hopefully the NGOs could use this model. And actually, when we do census at Gram Panchayat and village levels, if it is possible to capture all this information, like we are saying, family situation, gender, why displacement due to, or all these other parameters that we have captured. So if we have all these values, then maybe you could identify a potential child, and then you engage with the child and ensure that you do some counseling, or you involve the child in various activities in the village and try and see that they don't become a runaway case. So that is what we are hoping, that people will be able to use the model. That's any questions?
Thank you. Very good, very clean presentation, and very well done analysis, at least in my mind. I just have a quick question. How do you put this into practice? So if you were to identify children that are vulnerable, of course, you're dealing with a very massive population, right?
Right.
So the question is, can you really go door to door and ask them questions to identify vulnerability, or is there any other way to do this, basically?
No, this has to be done that way. So we do door to door. The government does census door to door, right? So people come to every door and ask for the number of family members in the house, how many male, how many female, and whether, single parents, the financial status, working people. See, this kind of data is anyway captured mostly. But I would think in the rural areas, people work even more closer with the families. So there are these Gram Panchayat level, there will be workers working at Gram Panchayat level. So they will know every family in and out. So they will be able to capture more information. They work with Anganwadis in the schools there. So they will be able to capture information with regards to whether the child regularly visits school, comes to school, or is the child sent to the farm to work. These kind of information will be captured or will be available to capture. So instead of waiting for the child to come on the street and then rescue the child, I think we should go one step behind and try to engage with them before they become a case. So we should figure out how it can be done. And I think it is possible.
Okay, that's good. Oh, one other comment I have is, when you did the correlation matrix, you had region and something else that you dropped because of a negative correlation. I would be careful about that one because these are nominal variables. So it is better to see from a visualization whether region has an impact on vulnerability rather than just a computational. So did region have any impact on vulnerability from the visualization?
Yeah, we do see that maybe East and Northeast are more vulnerable compared to the South.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would look at the correlation value skeptically, because correlations are when both the variables are scalar, then it makes sense, right? Because a negative correlation with region, you probably have just arbitrarily classified as 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that, right?
Yes.
So looking at correlation over there might be a little misleading. So
Okay.
it would be you'd have to do some other way of classifying and looking at the classification with a different kind of score, possibly not correlation.
Okay.
But
Sure.
anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, just a comment.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure we'll have to refine this. And maybe there are some more other, like I said, we dropped a lot of these other values. Maybe there is something else here which gives more insights. It was just too many more columns, so we kept it low. Maybe we just need to work on more of those columns.
Yeah, of course. And maybe you need to get additional data that might be better predictors, basically, especially because I mean, if you do have that option.
Yes.
So,
Sure.
but given given what you have and given what I'm seeing in the results, like 90% accuracy is not bad, basically. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
we got 89 in this. Yes, in the third
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Very
Thank you.
good. Any other questions?
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for the nice presentation. So what was the size of your data?
636 records.
Okay.
Small.
So yeah. So as sir said that so all the data fields are not of equal, so some are scalar, some are nominal. So I think if you would have done the normalization of all the values,
Okay.
that would have helped you in getting the predictions or what other things also. So
Okay.
have you tried for the clustering? So have you tried clustering for getting any sort of insights?
No, we didn't do clustering. No.
So
Okay.
Ritu, did we try clustering? I mean, maybe she would be able to if
No,
she has
ma'am.
tried. Yeah. Okay.
No, ma'am.
So I think you also try clustering and try to get some sort of groups that so you can get some more insights about groups.
Yeah, I think that's
Just
good
try it
idea.
out.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, actually, that's an excellent idea, because and when you might want to talk to whoever. I don't recall which faculty member focused on clustering. It might have been Shiva, right? Anyway,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
It was
So you might want to
Mr.
talk
Shiva.
to Shiva about this data set and see what he would recommend. I'm not very good at clustering, so I can't really tell you what to use.
Sure.
But Shiva might be able to give you better insights into that.
Yes. And if the NGOs would like to actually have a good model, then I might like to come back to somebody to help me make a good model here.
Sure, yeah. That's the whole purpose of having these programs. Yeah, I was going to say something. Anyway,
And if I think if the NGOs permit you to publish the work, I think you can also publish this work. This is a very
I'm
good.
trying. I think there is some sensitivity happening there. I'm trying to work on that. But yeah, I wish we will be able to do that. I'm working on that.
Okay.
But I think we would probably like to take the larger data set, because they do have records of about 25,000-30,000 records. So it may require a lot more cleaning up work, because I think this itself took us a long time to clean up and stuff like that. So yeah, it will become some dedicated work required.
So I think in your case, if you have, so because if 25,000 data sets are there, and if you do a detailed descriptive analytics which gives lots and lots of insights with respect to various dimensions, I think that and the statistical measures you can use it. I think that will also help you to get publish this work in a very good journal.
Sure. I'll work on that, and I will come back to you all for that.
In that, one or two machine learning models, if you're adding, to have some sort of predictions with respect to which place to target, so that from which state or from which sorts of family background the probability is more for a child to come on the streets or something like that. I think that much prediction is sufficient. Apart from that, in-depth descriptive analytics is very much necessary with this sort of work.
Sure.
And that I think that the quality will be a good one, and it will be it can be published in a very good journal. So that that permissions and whatever data value, data sets, and ethical clearance, whatever is required, you can do it.
Sure. Sure, sir. I'll try it.
Hi, this is Srinivas. Hi. Did you get some counterintuitive findings in your work? Did you, because you are a domain expert in this space, you must have seen a lot of. So, are your findings from your machine learning algorithms, are there any counterintuitive? You could learn something new, which otherwise.
Yeah, as I said, this age was a surprising factor for me because definitely what we find is age group from 10 to 15 are the most vulnerable. And that's what actually the data also shows. So this came as a surprise, definitely. But otherwise, I think a lot of this, the correlation was kind of showing the right things.
Okay.
And since the correlations were showing the right things, that is when we decided to go one step further and see if we can predict. Actually, when we started this project, we didn't think of doing a prediction. We're just looking at doing detailed descriptive analysis. But since this looked good enough, so then we thought, let's see if we can actually do a prediction.
You can also use in descriptive analytics, you can also use the whisker plot or the box plot to get some sort of insights. I think that those things will also give you lots of insights.
Okay. Yeah.